Nate in the Always Sunny in Sayreville League, and I have a lot of candy left over from Halloween because I didn't get any trick-or-treaters, and I got to get rid of it sometime. So, injuries this week. Spencer Ware suffered a concussion, I believe, that is going to keep him out of Week 9. Also, Jaquiz Rogers hurt his foot. No Jaquiz on Thursday night, as you know, obviously. Ty Montgomery was a late scratch. A lot of people left him in their lineup, myself included in another league and on DraftKings. It was awesome to pull a 0 off a guy who was a late scratch. T.Y. Hilton got hurt, but apparently he's off the injury report. He's going to play this week. No problem there. Andre Johnson retired, and Jamal Charles was placed on IR. So, RIP those guys. It was a good run for Andre Johnson, to be sure. Jamal Charles, one of the greatest running backs. I wonder if we ever see him play another game. It's a shame. The high score this week was 36.1 points, which is interesting because that's the exact same high score from last week, except this time it was Tom Brady who led the bootleg crab leg to a 128.8 to 87.5 point victory over Rutherford B. Hazy. Now, this was one of those rare victories where the bootleg crab leg started 2 negatives but still somehow managed to win the game. That somehow was because Rutherford B. Hazy scored a very, very low score. And that got me thinking, a lot of guys score low scores when they play against the bootleg crab leg. So I looked into a little bit further. In all 6 of his wins, the bootleg crab leg has not faced an opponent who's exceeded 118.1, and he's winning his games by an average score of 120.6 to 113.2. So if you can score 121 points, you too can beat the bootleg crab leg. So okay, all the analysis of the bootleg crab leg scoring this season got me thinking about the scoring in the league so far this season. And there was a couple of interesting things that I found out. Number 1, in the number 2's division, the standings reflect the points scored exactly, meaning that the first place team has the most points scored, that is the Golden Showers. The last place team has the fewest points scored, that is sadly Shower Hug. And everybody in between goes right in order of points scored, which I guess is what you would kind of expect. But in the Porter division, Team Blumpkin, Toddler Fight Club, and the Moth all have more points scored than Bootleg Crab Leg and the Gotham Rogues, who are ahead of them in the standings. But here's where it gets really interesting. Danny Mac from the Golden Showers and I were talking about it, and we felt like scoring was down overall in the league because there were more teams and rosters were a little more even and spread out and stuff like that. So I took a look back at last year, and there was 16,441.5 points scored total last season, and that breaks down to 126.47 points per team per game. This year, there's been 11,775 points scored, which breaks down to 122.66 points per team per game, which is negative 381. 3.81 fewer points per game per team are being scored this year than were being scored last year. So yes, scoring is down a little bit. 3.8, almost 4 points per team per game. But here's where it gets really interesting. I went back and looked over the last 5 years to see what the highest scoring team in the league did on a per game basis. And aside from 2013 and 2014, which seemed to be a little bit of outliers, there was kind of like explosions by the 2 top scoring teams. For the most part, it looks like 130 points or thereabouts is the average per game score that the top scoring team in the league achieves. And last year it was 130.76 points or something like that. This year, the Golden Showers, the top scoring team in the league so far, is scoring 134 plus points, which is 3.75 points greater than last year. So The league is scoring almost 4 points fewer per team per game, but the top scoring team in the league is scoring 3.75 points, almost 4 points more than the top scoring team in the league last year. So, I don't know what that means. I just do the math and tell you guys about it. Segue. Alright guys, now it's time for this week's hero. Toddler Fight Club beat the Golden Showers this week by a score of 139 to 105. They were led by 23.9 points out of Rob Gronkowski and 23.8 points out of Matt Forte. And oh, by the way, 22 points out of the Denver defense, who pretty much scores a touchdown every week at this point. They beat the former number 1 team in the league, knocking the Golden Showers down to number 2 out of the top spot for the first time this season. They started the season out 1-4, but since then have won 3 games in a row and now sit at 4-4 and occupy the number 6 spot in the playoffs. And for that, Toddler Fight Club is this week's hero. Alright guys, now it's time for this week's GOAT, and this has got to stop. Shower Hug lost their game this week by a score of 115.7 to 108 to the Gotham Rogues. This 7.7 point margin of defeat was the closest game of the week. After the Sunday night games, Shower Hug trailed the Gotham Rogues by a score of 115.7 to 90.1. The Rogues were done, and Shower Hug needed 25.6 points out of the Vikings combo of new starter, the ass man, Matt Asiata, and tight end Kyle Rudolph. Instead of these two guys just putting up 13 points apiece, which seems reasonable for them to do, they combined for 17.9 points. And as I mentioned, Shower Hug fell just 7.7 points short of a victory. He had one player scoring over 20 points, and nobody else on the team scored over 14.2. He didn't even have it on the bench. It's not like, oh, if I started this guy or whatever. Not happening. Shower Hug falls into a tie for last place in the league, and they're the second lowest scoring team. And for that, Shower Hug is this week's GOAT. Give me a break. Alright guys, key matchups. We got 2 matchups we're going to be keeping our eye on this week. The first one is between 6-2 Bootleg Crab Leg and 3-5 the Dennis System. This is the number 1 team in the league taking on the number 12 team in the league. So hopefully we see a little upset city and the Dennis System can come away with a much needed win. The other matchup we're going to take a look at is 5-3 Devontae's Inferno taking on 4-4 Rusty Strombone. These two teams are pretty evenly matched. Devontae's Inferno is trying to keep his position in the playoffs, and the Rusty Strombone is actually the first team out of the playoffs, the 7 seed, so he's trying to get his way into the playoffs right now, and he needs every win he can get. So that's it, guys. Week 8 update over. Remember to set your lineups. Remember that the trade deadline's only a couple weeks away, and I can finally stop eating candy now. And I will see you next week where it's always sunny.
Hey Dave, this is Anthony from the Rusty Strombone here. Just wanted to set things a little straight here. I was called out on talking shit about shit that I wasn't talking. I was talking shit about how 2 teams that were rivals weren't talking shit, and that if you're rivals, you should be talking shit. So then John says I should back my shit talking up. I didn't talk shit about anybody's team. I just talked shit about how you guys didn't talk shit. Anyway, John, you said I didn't score 100 points. I scored 96 point whatever. You scored 105. You just sharded out over 100 points. And the only reason why you did so is because your defense scored 30. Yeah. I'm not going to talk about what I left on the bench. That doesn't matter. But what does matter, John, is that week 13, the last game of the season, we see each other, we play. Oh, and is there gonna be shit talking? Oh, yeah. Did we just start a rival? Is this happening? Is this real life? Did we just start it? Did it just happen? It's on. I think it's on. You don't want it. You want to play rough? You want me to go crazy? You want me to get Puerto Rican on you? I'll go Puerto Rican. You don't want me to go Puerto Rican. Hey, yo, partner. You got problem? You got hey, yo, partner. You got problem? What's up, man? What's up, este? Is that not Puerto Rican? Is that Mexican? I don't want to be racist. Week 13, boy. It's going down. We got plenty of weeks to talk shit. And let's talk about how your team is kind of cheeks. You know, you had like one good scoring week, and then like you haven't scored over like 120, and you catch every person on their shittiest week. You know, like last year you were catching everybody on their best week, but this year pretty much you caught everybody on their worst week and barely broke $120. I don't know, but we got a couple weeks, and I think I'll be hearing from you. So until the next video, or until week 13,